Hello everyone, welcome to Chasing a Murderer. Today we are on part 117 of Life Beyond the Grave, which is attached to the Lori Vallow case. And where we left off was where Lori Vallow's brother Adam and his son Zach, they have traveled to Arizona. Why is Adam Cox there? Well, he traveled there to help his buddy out, Charles Vallow, do an intervention for his sister, Lori Vallow, who they feel is struggling with mental illness. But Lori actually learned about Charles and Adam's plan, and she and her other brother, Alex, and her sister, Summer, had devised their own plans, and they were waiting in anticipation for Charles to show up or arrive at Lori's house to pick up JJ for school. Strangely, Charles Vallow doesn't seem too worried about those life threats that he's been given by Lori, because he's planning on actually picking JJ up in broad daylight. And besides that, the kids will be there. I thought about this multiple times, how Charles must have felt during this time, that when he knew that he had several people by his side to try and help his wife who was suffering from mental illness. At least that's what he thinks. Charles had also made plans with his landlord and friend Joe to meet up after he dropped JJ off at school. But right before July 11th, a few days before, Adam Cox says that he noticed some really strange things about his brother Alex. Before he arrived in Arizona, he had called Alex to ask him if he could stay with him while he was there. According to Adam Cox, he said that he arrived in Arizona July 10th on a Wednesday, and he calls his brother Alex on Tuesday, the day before he arrived. He asked Alex if he could stay with him. Let me try to, actually, we're going to play the video.
And back up a little bit, on Tuesday, I called Alex and I said, hey, because me and Charles, it was getting my ticket. I said, hey, I'm coming to Arizona. Him and I used to spend time together, and he comes out here. He's a truck driver, and he's also sucked into Lori's whatever she tells him. He believes, and so he's listened to all these podcasts, and he's fallen into whatever she says. He's all about it. And so I said, look, I'd like to spend some time with you. How about if I spend the night at your house instead of Mom and Dad's house? He said, yeah, I'll go buy a mattress and a blow-up mattress so you can stay in in my room, in one of his bedrooms. And I said, oh, that'd be great. So I get in on Wednesday, and I called Alex, and he never answers the phone or returns any of my calls. And I thought, that's really weird. So I spent the night at my mom and dad's that night, and I asked him, I said, well, what are you doing home? And he goes, I took this week off. I said, well, why'd you take the week off? He goes, I don't know, I'm just working around the house. And usually when my brother takes a week off of vacation, he goes to Colombia to be with women. So I thought it was very strange that he took a whole week off just to hang out at his house. I said, that doesn't make any sense.
So we're going to talk about July 10th real quick. So this is the night before Charles shows up to Lori Vallow's house to pick up JJ for school. According to an interview with Lori Vallow later, she is expecting Charles, when he comes into town, to actually show up at her house the night before unannounced. And she's going to be ready for that. In fact, she uses the word ambush. Now, Lori knows that JJ is very, he bonded to Lori. Why? I don't know. But he did. And he doesn't seem to want to be with Charles as much as he does with Lori. And Lori kind of describes what JJ's going through during this time when she tells him that his dad's coming to pick him up for school. JJ's been throwing fits in the floor, kicking walls. His behavior has gotten worse lately. It's not that have anything to do with Charles. It has to do with that this kid's life has been turned upside down. And Lori understands fine and clear that it's very hard on JJ if he doesn't have a routine, and then suddenly This routine matters to her. And she's one of the reasons that the kid's moving all over the place.
Back into his school. His services, I met with the DDD yesterday, and they finally are getting his services back, but we're paying $125 a day to have him back in school because he's so out of his routine. He's been a nightmare on the floor, kicking stuff, hitting stuff, walls. Like, he just ripped him out of his life. Yeah. Anyway, just how he is, because he only thinks about himself. So he says, coming to get JJ, and JJ's like, I don't want Dad, because he knows Dad took him away, so he was freaking out, right? So I didn't tell him he was even coming. Like, Dad's going to come take you to school, I think. So he didn't bother me last night, which I was surprised. I was expecting kind of an ambush for him to kind of, like, come over or be just mean. And say, that's my house, I'm on Louis, so I'm going to stay here, kind of thing. So it's kind of his macho attitude. And so he came this morning. I skated to the
So he got in last night, but he wasn't at the house last night.
Yeah, I didn't hear from him, except for he texted me and said, I'll be there at 7:30 to pick up JJ.
Okay.
So notice that Lori tells JJ, in her own words, that Charles rips him away from the mom, not Lori abandoned the children. So Charles, Adam, Zach, they're all preparing to try to get Lori the help Charles thinks that Lori needs. So what does Janice think about her daughter just before this time? We're going to share that right here. Remember how people said that Lori just suddenly changed. This is how things happen. But that's not what Janice believes.
My advice, but I don't know what she knows. All I know is the woman that she is. I did not see any great change in Lori. I think the only change that happened was when she found out Charles was cheating on her. That ruined that marriage. Before she accused Charles of cheating, he never said one bad word about Lori ever. Not once. He never said anything. Then he started all of this. She thinks she's God. Tried to get her excommunicated from the church. He went to attorneys and said, I'm scared for my life. The whole time he was texting us, calling us, trying to get Lori back. Finally he said, tell Lori I'll drop all the court proceedings if she'll just come back and talk to me.
So Janice confirms, that Charles was not wanting to divorce Lori, but he knows he should divorce Lori. Things are not going well for him. His life's being destroyed, his finances. And Janice also says that Charles has never, ever once, ever had a bad thing to say about Lori. But suddenly, he does. And whose fault is that? Well, it's his, because he's the one that's cheating, according to Lori. So the night before Charles shows up at Lori's house, he had texted his landlord. They had plans to meet after he dropped off JJ. He had plans with Adam to try to get help for Lori, while Lori's plans are to ambush Charles. Now, for those of you that are wondering, did the Mormon Church know what's going on? Well, yes, the stake president is actually trying to help them out. In fact, Adam and Charles were trying to get Lori in front of the stake president.
In my opinion, family is family, and you need to hear all sides before you can make any decisions on anything. And so when Charles was calling me and he was telling me things, and I was like, that sounds like that could be true. So then I just started listening to him, and he called me every day in a panic. And so we were like, and the things that Lori had told me personally, I told my parents, I was like, we got to get Lori help. There's something really wrong with her. And so with all those kinds of things, when Charles, right before Charles was shot and killed, I was staying at my mom's house. I'd flown in because me and Charles were going to get Lori, try to get Lori in front of our stake president of their church, of their ward. And so we were just texting back and forth, and right before he went in, he texted me and he's like, hey, I'm here to get JJ, and Alex's truck is here. And to me, I just had a really bad feeling in my stomach when he said that.
Charles is trying to get Lori to slow down on his spending. She's able to get a hold of his finances again, so that's probably most likely what she was after when she went with him to Houston. Also, He's trying to get her to spend more time with JJ. And here she is saying, he's the bad guy, not Lori. Lori had sent her sister Summer manipulative text that made it seem as if Charles was coming after her. Summer is very much involved with this during this time. She is talking to Alex and insisting that he go over to Lori's. And Alex is like, I don't know. Then he says, I'll call her. And then Summer just begs and pleads till finally he agrees. For me, there's something missing with this story. Where Alex goes over there this day, there's something big missing. Why is it that Alex says that he took off a week and says he's going to spend it working around his house, when Adam says he likes to go to Colombia, spend that time with women? Why is it when Summer asked Alex, will you go stay with Lori, he's kind of hesitant? And what is going on in Alex's head? That's what a lot of us want to know during this time. Now, because Charles' trial is coming up, I'm going to skip 118. We're going to make, it probably even be 118, 119. Let's say we'll go up to 120. We're going to skip so that we can leave that open for when Charles' trial begins. Because a lot of this information on Charles that we have right now is still not 100%. And it'd be better to actually come back and make those parts of the series once we understand what exactly happened with Charles. Until then, I have information that's not been that updated that we're going to go over involving the day Charles got shot. July 11th approaches. Charles is prepared to go pick up JJ early in the morning and take him to school. What he's not prepared for is the fact that Lori's prepared to ambush Charles that morning. It would be very unsuspecting. Who would do something to someone in broad daylight, in front of the children, and in front of other people? Charles did not take Lori Vallow as seriously as he should have. The love he had for Lori Vallow was his kryptonite. And Lori has deceived her whole entire family just to have people supporting her so that she can fulfill her mission. And if she can deceive her own blood, what makes you think that deceiving her husband would be hard? I've thought about this a lot. And this is one of the main reasons I've made this series, is because they tried to make her out as this innocent, great, good-hearted woman that suddenly changed. But that's not who Lori Vallow really is. Lori Vallow is a cold, calculated person that once she sets her mind on something, she's going to go after it. And if anyone, including blood, gets in her way, she will do whatever it takes to reach those goals. When Charles arrives to Lori's house in Arizona, he notices that Alex Cox, Lori's brother's vehicle, is in the driveway. And Charles, he must feel kind of safe knowing that he has somebody to text that knows that what he's there doing when he got there. Surely they wouldn't have the balls to do what was going to happen that day. Now, I'm not certain how to put this in order for you guys. So what we're going to do is go through some of the texts that the investigator reads during Lori's trial this summer of 2023.
This would be the July 11th, 2019, shortly before the murder of Charles Vallow. At between 7:35 and 7:37 in the morning, Charles sent Adam Cox a message that says, "Al is here." Adam responded, "At Lori's." Adam then states, "Really? I wonder why he never called me back." Adam said, "They are planning something." Charles responded, "Absolutely." Adam then responds, "I was supposed to spend the night at his house last night. She probably blocked that." And then Charles responded, "What you do is up to you."
After that message, are there any other messages from Charles to anyone?
After that message, there are no other messages. There are messages sent to the phone, but nothing was read by Charles at that point.
And those messages took place on July 11th, 2019, between 7:35 a.m. and 7:37 a.m.?
Correct. And in addition, Charles' phone had his location services on, and the location...
I'm going to check. This is non-responsive to the question. Oh, he's adding. Thank you.
Were you able to determine anything else from Charles Vallow's phone?
Yes.
And what was that?
Charles had his location services on, and the location of that device at the time those messages were sent was at the 5531 South Four Peaks place in Chandler, where the homicide took place.
According to Lori, Alex, and Tylee, there's a struggle over Charles's phone. And they would give their version of what happened that morning. And I'm going to share those interviews with you.
I was just having ears up because my mom wanted a dance room. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. Kind of unconventional, but
Okay, whatever makes you happy. It's your guys' house, so.
right. So, yeah, I immediately just jumped up and I grabbed my baseball bat and I opened the door and it was my stepdad, outside the doorway, and then my uncle kind of in the doorway, and then I could hear my mom behind him, and he was just screaming at both of them, like, I don't even know what he was saying, because honestly, I was just too, wired, I guess. So I told him to take a few steps back. I was like, you're too close, you need to step back, and he was like, don't tell me what to do, and I just kind of just stood there, and then my uncle kind of moved out of the van, and my mom kind of went past him and into the big room where everything happened, and so I walked with them, and then
So they were more in the hallway.
yeah, they were at the end of the hallway basically, and so my mom walked all the way around.
Tylee Ryan says that she grabs a bat out of her room, didn't really do anything with the bat, just kind of used it as a wedge between Charles and them.
My uncle was right here, and then my stepdad right here, and then me and my mom were kind of right here. They didn't do anything with the baseball bat, I kind of just held it there, and he was getting really close to my mom, so I kind of stuck it out between them, and they were both just yelling, and he was like, if you hit me with that baseball bat, you're gonna go to jail, and I just kind of stood there with the baseball bat, and I didn't really say anything.
When you said they were yelling, who was yelling?
It was mostly my stepdad.
Okay.
Well, he was really the only one yelling.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was kind of responding, but I honestly couldn't tell you what they were saying. It was kind of just all jumbled up.
So somehow there's a yelling match. Tylee hears it, comes out with her bat, uses it as a wedge, and she says it's at this point that Charles grabs the bat away from her.
And so I just kind of stuck the baseball bat out there, and then he just grabbed it and tried to take it, so I held on to the end, and then eventually I fell, and he kind of took it into his hands like he was going to do something with it, and that's when...
So when you fell, he ended up with the bat?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I fell to the ground, and then my uncle kind of I saw him take a step back, so my uncle, I think, grabbed him and kind of took him back so he couldn't do anything.
You saw your stepdad take a step back?
Take a step back, because he was really close to begin with, and then and so my mom said to go with JJ, and so I ran out the door, and then I kind of just stood there with my little brother. He was in the front seat of the car, and so I just kind of opened the door and just stood there, and he was...
Now, police are saying that things don't seem to be adding up after talking to a few other people. And the police actually almost slip up. This is probably talking about the bullets and the bullet holes that they found, which we'll go into shortly. So pay attention to Alex Cox. He's caught off guard. He's a nervous wreck, and you can tell it.
Yep.
Okay. So...
When they go, yeah, this is what he says, but they're kind of rambling through it real fast. And same with your sister. Your sister's name is Lori or Lauren?
Lori.
L-O...
L-R-I.
L-O-R-I? Okay. So, have big thing I want to do is just make sure that we have all the details accurate and factual. So, because kind of some of the information we got from patrol didn't really match up what Lori told us compared to. So, walk me through what happened today.
So we know that Charles shows up there, and for some reason he is shot. But according to Alex Cox, he was only shot standing up. The reason he was shot was they were fearing for their own lives. Where the cop catches him off guard most is ask him, what were your plans that day? Basically, why were you at your sister's house?
Well, I stayed the night at my sister's.
Okay.
We were planning to go do something fun day. We hadn't really decided anything. Maybe we go. I was going to take her to the range.
Okay.
Whoa, wait a minute. Did he just say range? That's a fun day? So, this is interesting because this is the first thing that pops to mind. Perhaps this was a plan. Was he going to take Lori to the gun range? Was he going to go to the gun range? He realizes that that answer isn't a good answer for a fun day. So he kind of backtracks.
Fun day. We hadn't really decided anything. Maybe we go. I was going to take her to the range.
Okay.
Or go do something. Okay. I'm going to take JD to some water park or movies or whatever. So I stayed there last night, and then this morning Charles showed up. And I don't know what started it.
And Charles is your brother-in-law. He and Lori are married.
Alex Cox says he doesn't know what started it. He knows what started it. They had planned this before he got there. That's why Alex was there. We know that Alex seems very uncomfortable with the fact of even having to do this, what their plans are for Charles. He was very questionable whether or not Charles was a zombie in the first place. But Lori was right. Things were coming to a head this week. And things were happening.
Following her and yelling. And then I got between them. And then Tylee came out with her bat. And I had separated for a minute. And then my sister had walked around me there in the living room. And then Charles was following Lori and yelling, and Tylee told him to get back. She took her bat like that and shoved him, and then took the bat away. And I said, "What are you doing?" And I got between them, and then he hit me, and I just went down. And when I got up, he was still yelling, and so I went into the bedroom where I was staying and grabbed my gun. I came back, and told him to put the gun down.
Alex's account of what happened changes. At one point, he said that Charles chased him into the room in which he went and got a gun and started down the hallway back towards the great room that they were in. Firstly, if you're being chased that closely in that small of an area, Charles would not still be in the great room. Then you have this account.
And told him to put the gun down, or the bat down. And he came to me and was saying, what are you going to do? Like that, come to me with the bat. I said, put it down. He wouldn't. He came at me, so.
Okay. So
Charles was actually shot twice. Once standing up and once while on the ground. Remember that for when we get the EMS account. Now remember, Tylee said that she met them near her door and they were arguing. That's where she first come in contact or seen Charles, Lori, and Alex. But Alex's account says something different. Tylee comes out of the room after they were already heading to the great room.
And ended up in the living room.
Oh, so
right close to the doorway of that bedroom.
Oh, the bedroom you were staying?
Yes.
Okay. So you're right near the bedroom?
Yes.
Okay.
So then, I don't remember why, he backed up, and then my sister came around behind me, and they ended up in the living room, and then while they're on the way to the living room, Tylee comes out of her bedroom, which is adjacent to the one I was staying in.
Okay.
With her bat.
Okay.
Yelling at Charles. Actually, she was behind Charles at first, and then she cut around in front of him in the living room.
Okay. So he then they went back towards the living room?
Yes.
After you shoved him, did he fall to the ground when you shoved him?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so he falls to the ground, he gets back up, you're blocking between him and
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
And he basically is talking past you, still yelling at Lori.
Yes, exactly.
What's he saying?
I don't remember.
Okay. So you're standing there between them, what happened right after that? Is that when Tylee came out with her bat?
He backed up.
Okay.
He yelled something and then he backed up. And then Lori went by me and around me in the hallway. Mm-hmm. So he backed up, I cleared the doorway. So then she came around and then Charles was behind her, pursuing her again aggressively.
Okay.
Tylee came out, yelled at him with the bat.
Okay. And are you guys in the living room then or still in the hallway?
It starts in the hallway and then goes to the living room.
Okay.
So Tylee gets around in the living room, he stops. Tylee goes around to the front of him, tells him to back off.
What I find it easiest to do in situations.
Now, like I said, we'll go into more details of this day later, but let's go ahead and jump to Lori's account of what happened. Pay attention because Lori has nothing but a bunch of lies. This is the biggest collection of lies in one interview I've ever seen. In fact, she will make it seem as if, like I mentioned earlier, that when she left them for over 58 days, she just didn't talk to JJ or Charles, just abandoned them. But she'll make it look as if to the police officer that Charles just up and took JJ and left her.
Then he came over in the morning and was like banging on the door. I'm like, oh great, here we go, you know. And I was just gonna be nice. I'm just gonna be nice as possible. And I had JJ stuff all ready for school. So,
do you remember about what time we got there?
He said to be there 7:30, but it was more like 7:40ish or 7:35. I don't know.
Okay.
But I remember thinking, look at the clock, and he wasn't there at 7:30. And he's usually Mr.
Yeah.
On time. Yes. So I was like, okay. And then JJ was like, oh, Dad. And then he was like, Mommy! Like ran to me, like holding me. He's like, you're not taking me to school. And I was like, it's okay, Dad. I can just drive you to school. It's not a big deal. You know, just trying to make it whatever. Yeah, calm. And then he was just being real smirky and real like jerky, you know, to me. And I was like ignoring him, whatever. And so he was like,
your brother lives there with you?
No,
okay.
He had stayed with me last night because I was worried he was going to come over and cause trouble with me.
Okay.
And just wanted someone else there, like my brother there, because I trust my brother. And it's been a long story. Like, I had to go live at my brother's when he took JJ, and, you know, he's just been difficult. So, anyway.
So, there you go. She's blaming Charles for everything that's gone wrong when it's truly her. And another thing is Alex and Lori's stories do not match up when it comes to the reason for Alex being at her house. Alex says he's there for a fun day at the range or movies or whatever. And Lori says, well, I wanted him here for protection. Lori often claims that Alex Cox is the big mouth, the screw up, the stupid one. But it's clearly Lori screwing up. Lori Vallow also slips up by mentioning the fact that she knew that her husband was texting her brother Adam. How will she know that? She'll say that Charles left the phone on the counter. So did she look at it while he was taking supposedly JJ out to the car with his book bag? That is a totally different version from what Tylee says.
And he's like this about timing. He's like, I'm leaving in 20 minutes because it's like 15 minutes to the school. Like, you can't get there early. They don't open the gates until 8:20 or something like that. And I said, well, why don't you just go now? I don't want him in the house. I'm like, why don't you just go now and take him to Burger King because that's what he likes for breakfast. And he's very particular about food. He wanted chicken fries for breakfast and this bread. Like, and I just can't really want because you know what I'm saying? It's like on the floor screaming, dragging him, and just going like, and he's big and he's heavy and it's hard for me to handle. But anyway. So I said, just go. And so he said, okay. So I gave him a backpack. He got in the car. This is his MO, right? He always leaves something in the house and comes back. He never leaves the first time. I always expect my husband to come back into the house, right? So I guess he had left his phone on the counter.
So he initially left with a backpack and with JJ?
And so he put them in the car, in the driveway, and then he came back in, right? So I kissed JJ goodbye. He came back in, and his phone was on the counter, and I had his phone. And he was like, give me my phone. And I was like, why don't you show me your text that you've been texting? Blah, blah, blah. You know, whatever. Because he's like acting really weird, like he's plotting something against me. Like, I'm like, why are you even here? Like, what did you come here for? You know, he's been talking to my other brother, and my brother came into town at the same time last night. And I haven't talked to my brother in a while, my other brother, and I was like, and so he was texting him on the phone when he first got to my house, and I'm like, why are you texting Adam? Like, do you even talk to him? Like my other brothers. And, you know, he's been telling me all these texts, like, you're going down, blah, 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 blah. He's blaming me for our marriage breaking up, and my niece getting divorced, and my friend getting divorced. He said, I'm a destroyer of families. Because I want everybody to get divorced. I'm like, what would my motivation be for people getting divorced? So I can babysit the kids more? Like, why would I have any control over what people do?
Yeah.
So remember, her husband, they just went through this horribly devastating moment. Here Lori is sitting there laughing, joking, just straight up acting like a fool. Have you ever seen anyone go through what they just went through and act this way? So we'll start off the next part of the series with Tylee's interview. And then we'll do some more interviews of when the police show up at the scene where Charles had been shot. Okay, guys, don't forget we have these girls. Their stories continue to go on with no answers whatsoever. People like Jasmine Robinson, Dulce, Summer Wells. Please share their face on your social media today. Also, if you like my work, please take a moment and consider liking, subscribing, hitting the notification bell to get notifications whenever we upload new videos. And also, you can share. Tell people about this series. Don't forget, I've also added a thanks to where you can donate if you'd like. It's located just under the video. Love you guys. Thank you for your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.